The very mention of Sade Sati, the 7.5-year transit of Saturn, often brings fear. But what if this period is actually the most accelerated, vital phase of your spiritual growth? Traditional astrology calls it a difficult time, but consciousness-based astrology reveals it as Saturn's final exam. It's a demanding period. It's designed to strip away everything that isn't authentic and forge your most resilient, genuine self. So today, we will decode the spiritual blueprint of Sade Sati, transforming it from a curse into the most powerful tool for karmic mastery and soul evolution. So for those of you that are new to the channel, if you want a deep dive into the soul concepts, soul maps, karmic afflictions, your houses, your planets, please check out my foundational playlist on the soul map and the karmic concepts that are linked below. There are 2 playlists. If you need a refresher on the basics of how to read your chart, the 12 houses or the 9 planets, please check out the second foundational playlist that is linked below. So let's get back to the video on Sade Sati. So let's talk about the Sade Sati clock first. When exactly does it start? So before we dive into the lessons, we need to know how to locate it in your chart. So Sade Sati is calculated relative to your natal moon's sign in your birth chart. Remember, the moon represents your mind, your emotions, your stability, and your sense of security. So the period begins when the transit planet Saturn, it enters the sign that's immediately preceding your natal moon's sign. That is the 12th house from your moon. It then continues as Saturn transits through the moon sign itself, which is the first house from the moon, hence the sign the moon's sitting in. And finally, it concludes as Saturn transits the sign immediately succeeding the moon, which is the second house from the moon. Now, since Saturn takes approximately 2.5 years to transit one sign, the entire transit across these 3 signs totals roughly 7.5 years. This entire time subjects your core emotional foundation, which is your moon, to the relentless pressure of Saturn's discipline, hard work, delay. Now let's talk about Saturn's new narrative. Saturn is the spiritual guru. The traditional view for Sade Sati is what? It's fear. Now this fear focuses on Saturn as being the agent of delay, loss, and punishment. But let's look at the spiritual view. Saturn is actually the guru or the teacher of structure, of time, and integrity. So if you already have all those things, you have nothing to worry about. He is the Lord of Dharma, righteousness. Sade Sati is not punishment. It is a mandatory 7.5-year restructuring program. The goal is to enforce authenticity by breaking down the false structures, the superficial commitments, and ego attachments that are preventing your soul from reaching its true maturity. So, the ultimate lesson here is this. Every challenge, every delay, every loss, the feeling of heaviness, it's designed to teach you endurance, patience, detachment, and self-reliance. Let's talk about the amplification factor. Now, it is crucial to understand that the intensity and the specific theme of the Sade Sati, they're not solely defined by the transit. The results are either amplified or mitigated depending on which natal planets are sitting in those houses in the 12th, 1st, or the 2nd houses from your moon as Saturn is passing over them. Think of Saturn as an auditor. If he finds a crucial planet sitting there, the audit becomes much more focused and intense on that planet's specific area of life. So let's do this rule of thumb. If the Lagna Lord, the ruler of your first house, which represents yourself, your identity, or a planet that governs challenge, like the ruler of the 6th house or the 8th house, if they're sitting in one of these Sade Sati houses, the pressure is often amplified. So you'll feel it more than somebody who has no planets sitting in those houses. Now, why is that? Because Saturn is forcing you to restructure the very foundation of your identity. If your Lagna Lord is there, or demanding payment for pending debts, if the 6th Lord is there, or demanding transformation, if 8th Lord is there. We will keep this amplification factor in mind as we go through our example. Let's dive into the 3 phases of this karmic restructuring. Each of the 3 phases of Sade Sati has a distinct spiritual assignment, forcing you to release, restructure, and then rebuild. So let's talk about this phase 1. It's the 12th house transit, which is the phase of release and detachment, right? 12th house themes. The focus of this phase is the 12th house, which governs loss, isolation, and spiritual liberation. The spiritual assignment here is detachment and preparation. Saturn forces you to strip away external security blankets, things like old friendships, outdated career structures, or toxic habits, close relationships that no longer serve your soul. You may feel drained or isolated, so you're forced to look inward. The karmic lesson is learning the difference between what you want and what you need. Let's talk about phase 2. That's where the Saturn transits the 1st house of your moon. The phase here is of authenticity and endurance. The focus of this phase is the 1st house, which governs the self, the physical body, and personal identity. The spiritual assignment here makes this the most intense phase because Saturn is going straight up over your moon, over your mind, hence constricting it. It is testing the core of the self. Saturn sits directly on your natal moon, creating maximum pressure on your emotions, on your body, and your entire sense of identity. Everything you built without integrity will be tested. The karmic lesson is forging authenticity and true self-worth. You must identify your most essential duties and commit to them with deep, grounded endurance. Now let's talk about phase 3, the 2nd house transit. That means transit over the 2nd house from the moon. This is the phase of rebuilding and value. The focus of this phase is the 2nd house, which governs speech, your accumulated wealth and resources, and your family values. So the spiritual assignment here is about rebuilding and valuing the fruits of your labor. Saturn solidifies the lessons learned in the 1st house. It asks, are your resources ethical? Is your speech constructive? The karmic lesson is creating lasting ethical security. This is the time to use your voice and resources to support your newly defined, authentic self and establish mature, stable values. Let's do a case study. Let's see how Saturn's spiritual audit works in action. I'm going to give you a simple example. So let's use a very simple example to see how these phases manifest in a relatable scenario. Imagine your natal moon sits in the 10th house, which is the house of career, public recognition, and status. What's going to happen in phase 1? Phase 1, Saturn transits the 9th house, which is the 12th from the moon. What kind of manifestation will you see happen? It will be a lesson of detachment, hitting your career philosophy and public ethics, which is the 9th house. Saturn forces you here to release old, unprincipled career goals. You might lose a mentor. That mentor could be your guru. Anything that 9th house governs. It might change your core beliefs about success. You might feel isolated from your current workplace. So what is the spiritual lesson here? You are forced to look inward and ask, what is my true dharma of my work? You must cultivate patience and spiritual conviction before your actual career is tested. That's where phase 2 comes in, which is much tougher. Saturn transits the 10th house, which is sitting on the moon. Manifestation here is that the core test of authenticity hits your career directly. This is often the time of immense pressure, heavy workload, and public scrutiny. You may be forced to leave a job that was not aligned with your true integrity. Or you may face a crisis where you have to defend your reputation, because 10th house governs your reputation, your status, your fame, your work. So what is the spiritual lesson there? So Saturn demands that you forge a new authentic professional identity. You must stand on the strength of your own duty and principle, not on the validation of your title or status. Let's talk about phase 3 for this example. Saturn transiting the 11th house. That's the 2nd from the moon. What is the manifestation here? It's the rebuilding phase. It impacts your income, your networking gains, your ambitions, your social circle. The 11th house. You start seeing the rewards of your phase 2 labor, if you did the phase 2 labor, only if you structured your work ethically. Your new income and social network will be solidified around your authentic, hard-earned identity. So what is the spiritual lesson during this phase? Well, the focus is on establishing lasting ethical gains that reflect your true self-worth. Self-worth is seen from the 2nd house. You use your voice and resources to support your newly defined mature goals. So Sade Sati is a spiritual boot camp that transforms a fragmented self into an integrated soul. It is not something to fear, but a dedicated time period when the universe ensures you are forced to evolve. By embracing Saturn's assignments, by choosing duty over immediate pleasure, by choosing integrity over convenience, you use this 7.5-year cycle to reach true karmic mastery and spiritual maturity. That's huge. The Saturn is a hard taskmaster, hard teacher, strict teacher. So let's talk about your assignments and final steps. Your assignment is to take action right now. Identify which phase of Sade Sati you're currently in or will be in next. Then commit to the spiritual assignment of that phase. For example, if you're in phase 1, you can focus on detachment, especially from the themes of the house that are 12th from your moon. If you are in phase 2, focus on authenticity in that house. Of course, if you'd like a personal Sade Sati blueprint to understand your specific challenges and opportunities, then please click the link in the About section or in this video description. And of course, if you found this video helpful, I would appreciate it if you would give it a like and hit subscribe for more Vedic wisdom. And as always, thank you for watching and thank yourself for watching. And that's all for today.